I was only 20. I came to the nursing home on my first day of volunteering, a little lost, not knowing where to begin. I just wanted to be helpful, filled out a form, completed a short training, and a week later, I was walking down the quiet hallway of this facility on the edge of town. My name is Lily. I was one of those volunteers who bring books, help pour tea, sometimes just sit nearby, until one encounter made me see this place in a different light. He was sitting by the window, an elderly man with thin hands and a thoughtful gaze. I remember how he looked outside that day, for a long time, without blinking, as if searching for someone in a distant, invisible past. "Are you all right, Mr. Henry?" I asked quietly, almost in a whisper. He turned. To my surprise, he smiled. My wife's name was Emily. Back when we were young, we used to write letters to each other. Her parents didn't approve of us. They thought I wasn't good enough for her. We were kept apart, but we found our own way. Every Sunday, one of us would leave a letter under the old oak tree in the park. We wrote to each other in secret, for weeks, months. That was our place. He smiled, staring into the distance. In the end, we got married anyway, and we spent our whole lives together. She was my whole world. I listened, and it felt like I was sitting in the middle of an old, heartfelt movie. Only this was real. "Would you like to write to her again?" I offered, eyes lowered. "Just to tell her how you're doing, as a memory, for her and for you." Henry smiled faintly, for the first time in a long while. "Do you think she'd read them?" "I think you'll feel it," I said. From that day on, every Saturday, I accompanied him to that very park. Under the old oak tree that he and Emily had once chosen as their secret spot, Henry placed a letter, carefully, gently, as if entrusting the tree with something sacred. He still found that same hollow between the roots, the one they had used as teenagers. Then we'd sit on a bench, sometimes in silence. Sometimes he'd tell me about Emily, how she believed the smell of bread in the morning could save you from sadness. She'd always stop by the bakery to inhale the scent, just to feel the day had started right. In his letters, Henry told Emily about simple things, how the day went, how the roses at the front of the home were blooming, how the neighbor kept forgetting where he left his glasses. He wrote about little things, as if sharing them over breakfast, just like before. But there were also tender lines, how he missed her voice, how he still cherished her photos, and how in the evenings he sometimes caught himself listening for her steps behind the door. He recalled their first summer together, how once they'd hidden from the rain in a lakeside gazebo, soaked and shivering from the cold, laughing. And that was when she first held his hand, simply as if it had always belonged there. These letters weren't just a tribute to the past. They were a continuation of a love that even death couldn't break. Weeks passed. They came again, like always, to leave a letter, and suddenly saw, in that same hollow between the roots, lay another envelope, a blue one. Henry knew it wasn't from Emily, but his heart still paused as he gently unfolded the paper. The letter was warm, sincere, full of tenderness and pain. The woman who read it was named Margaret. She lived nearby and often walked in that park on weekends, just to stand in silence among the trees. One day she noticed a letter and, giving in to curiosity, opened it. At first she felt awkward. It wasn't meant for her. But the words were so alive, so heartfelt, that her own heart responded. A week later she returned, and saw another letter, and read it again. These letters moved her to tears. There was so much love in them. She found herself thinking how she wished someone had ever loved her like that. I just want to be near when you leave your letters, not to intrude, just to sit quietly and know that such love is possible, that it existed and still exists. Forgive me if this is too much. Henry hesitated for a long time, but then he wrote back, not out of obligation, carefully, and they began to exchange letters. The letters became not just memories of the past, but a conversation about the present. Henry wrote about their walks, about the dog that sometimes ran up to them in the park. Margaret wrote about the books she reread, about chamomile tea, and nights when she couldn't sleep. Over time, I didn't just accompany him to the park. I wanted to be there, to help, to offer a hand, to sit quietly beside him when he grew tired. I saw something change in him. He smiled more often. One day he asked if he could bring flowers into his room, just because they were beautiful. Sometimes I'd catch him rereading his letters, carefully, with focus, as if he were that young man again, writing them with a trembling heart. And one day, under a letter from Margaret, there was a line, "If you don't mind, I'd like to meet you." Just for a moment, just to see the person who still believes in love. I brought him to the park. On a bench near the oak tree sat a woman in a blue coat, holding a letter in her hands. She looked up as he approached. Henry recognized her instantly. He had never seen her before, but somehow he knew. No doubt, no words. He sat beside her, said nothing, and she handed him a letter, real, paper, alive, with hope, with warmth, with a reply, honest, tender, and true. And if you found such a letter under a tree, would you read it?